As she looked to her left, she could see Peter standing calmly beside her. Of course, he didn't have to worry about anything since his powers wouldn't be taken away. However, it was different for her. She constantly moved her head trying to see if she can escape. Although none of them were planning to sit down, there was a chair behind each of the 8 students. Perhaps they would be asked to sit, the further they stayed inside the room. It was a small meeting room, used for one-on-one consultations. Currently, the students were standing in the center, while Jack was standing just in front of the desk with a single chair. Lingering by his side was the small guard dressed in green armor. The main problem in the escape plan was the large group of guards stationed right outside the door. Erin knew that the others were planning to get Peter out of the situation, for the sole reason that they had to if they wanted to keep their matter with Quinn a secret. But now she wished she had stayed in the meeting room so she would know what their plans were. Maybe she could have helped. "Now, you might be wondering why you have all been brought here in front of me today," said Jack. "It seems like either one way or another, you have been suspected of a dangerous crime, though I do not know what the crime is. Perhaps a part of secret terrorist group plotting to go against the military. However, it is not my job to find that out, because that's the school's responsibility." Halting his speech, Jack slammed his hand on the table to inculcate the gravity of the situation to the students. He resumed his talk again. "The punishment that has been handed to you is to have your abilities taken away." As soon as Jack said those words, a couple of students dropped to their knees, complaining, "But I didn't do anything, this can't be right." Some of them cried, while one student, who was closest to the exit, dashed towards the door. Before he could even take a few steps, he felt a stinging pain on the back of his neck. His head started to swirl, and his vision slowly began to fade, until he suddenly collapsed on the floor. "Oh my gosh, is he dead?" a student cried. The others were unable to see it because of how fast everything had happened, but Erin had seen it all. The green guard had taken out what looked like a small needle and swirled it inside his mouth with his tongue. Now, laced with a tiny amount of what looked like green liquid, it was catapulted right at the student's nape. "I hope nobody else tries that again," Jack said. "This process is meant to be quick and painless. Now, please sit down on the seats behind you. I don't want there to be any more accidents." Each of the students did as they were told. They carefully watched the guard lift the student who was passed out onto one of the empty chairs. This was a deal-breaker for Erin. She had to do something, otherwise she would lose her ability forever. Hence, with a resolute countenance, she faced Jack and uttered, "But we didn't do anything, sir," Erin said. "If you do this, people will find out about your made-up lies. We can just tell everyone the truth." "Oh, don't you worry about that. Once I take your abilities away, you shall all pay a special visit to the dungeon. The school will then report to the rest." "What was it that you said?" "Right, made-up lies. The most common one and accepted is usually you were all working for Pure. With that, the student's curiosity will disappear, and with it, your existence." The green-armored guard from earlier then started to walk over to the students. Erin was second to last along the row, while Peter was sitting at the very end. The guard had prepared some green liquid that was placed in some type of vial. He proceeded to place the liquid on the tip of his finger. Using his index, he would place it right between the eyebrows, just above the nose of the students. Then, after a few seconds, the student would fall asleep. "A sleeping ability?" Erin mumbled. "Ding, ding, ding! Like I said, I'm not a monster. Although by the time that you guys wake up, you will already be in the dungeon." The guard had gone through the other students, and it was finally Erin's turn. For a while now, she had been fumbling with something behind her back, waiting for Jack to get close, but he never did. He always kept his distance. When the guard went to place his finger on her head, she immediately swung out her arm, aiming for his... In her hand was a small dagger that had been formed from ice. She knew the guard was strong and fast, but a blow with a sharp object would be able to take down most people, no matter who they are. To her dismay, the guard didn't react at all. He continued with his task, placing his finger on her forehead. Nevertheless, just before the dagger reached his head, with his other hand, he had grabbed it and crushed it to pieces. The speed was too fast, so she had never thought that it was possible to block an attack that closely, unless one had a speed ability. Still, she was sure that he was the one who had produced the sleeping agent. It was most likely from his blood, which was why he had pricked the needle against his tongue. Someone couldn't have two abilities unless they were like Vorden. This solely meant one thing. The beast gear he was wearing was at such a high level that it would boost the user's stats to the point where they no longer seemed human. Accordingly, she was not able to resist, and a few seconds later she was asleep like all the others. Finally, it came to Peter's turn. Willingly, before the man had even placed his finger on his forehead, he had closed his eyes. He knew that just looking at these people would annoy him, but he needed to follow Master Quinn's order. Hence, he decided to keep them shut for now. Once the green liquid was placed on his head, all the students were ready. Jack then looked at the green guard and cleared his throat out loud, signaling for the guard to leave. "As you wish, sir," he said, bowing down, and left the room. Now, standing outside as guard on duties, just by the door, were the two guards. "Did he make you leave again?" the large guard asked. "Yeah, I don't know why. We all know his ability works," the green man replied. The mechanical spider remained inside the room while Peter's watch recorded everything. Logan was unsure whether the second guard would ever leave the room, yet for some reason it seemed like Jack had asked him to. This would make their job easier, but they had to act now. "Everyone go! Both guards are outside and only Mr. Truedream and the students are inside!" The group outside had received the message from Logan to proceed. The first ones to make a move would be Fex and Layla. They had been on standby waiting for the signal. Right behind the two of them were two random first-year students who had been brought along. These students were the same ones from Fex's room, his roommates. If it was anyone else being put in this situation, Fex probably would have felt guilty about what he was trying to make them do. But they were the ones who had attacked him first for no reason, so he couldn't think of any two more students to use. A slight tint of red could be seen in their eyes. When Fex commanded them, they started to glow slightly. A few seconds later, they were on the move. The two students turned around the corner and started to bump into each other. While this was happening, Fex would peek around the corner while twiddling his fingers. Eventually, the bumps turned into shoves as they continued their stride. "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here!" the larger guard said. But his words were useless as the two were starting to shove each other more harshly than before, although it seemed a bit strange since there was no speech involved while performing these actions. This was the limit to Fex's mind control, since more complex instructions will result in breaking the spell. The shoving had turned into a full-blown fistfight. While doing so, they would inch their way closer to the two guards. "If you guys don't scram out of here, my foot is going to be shoved right into your—" the guard shouted this time. They continued to ignore the guard's words, but it was more like they couldn't hear. Their mind was consumed with the last command by Fex. Arms and legs were swinging out as the two continued to fight. Right now, Fex was dwindling his fingers away faster than before, concentrating while the sweat ran down his forehead. Controlling one person's set of movements with the strings was easy, but coordinating two and making it look realistic was tough. He had attached strings to both of the students and given them the command to remain motionless, so everything they were doing right now was controlled by him. While everything was happening, Layla was to keep guard, making sure no one came down the hallway and saw them.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.